The banking crisis seems to be worsening, but there is hope for you. Before we discuss where the hope lies, let's objectively consider how bleak the situation is. A few local US banks, including SVB, collapsed in a short space of time. As a side note, it is a slightly concerning coincidence that Joseph Gentile, who was CFO of Lehman Brothers, is the current Chief Administrative Officer, CAO, of SVB Bank. To be fair, he did leave Lehman in 2007, a year before their collapse. Not sure if that's a good or bad thing. More on that in an upcoming video. After SVB, we had Credit Suisse fail too, and had to get bailed out. I say had to because Swiss officials admitted that the marriage of UBS and Credit Suisse was hastily arranged to prevent a global financial meltdown. That's how close we got to entering a global financial crisis in the last few days. Credit Suisse is a 166-year-old institution. Let that sink in for a second. It has now been bought by UBS, its rival, for a mere $3 billion. Now Deutsche Bank, one of the largest banks in the world, is looking precarious. Their credit default swaps have spiked in a similar fashion to Credit Suisse. I will cover them more in an upcoming video too. Subscribe to not miss it. Even though the Deutsche Bank situation is not completely similar to Credit Suisse, it still feeds our current biggest challenge: the drastically dropping confidence in the world's banking system. This can cause even healthy banks to fail if everyone tries to rescue their money at the same time. Couple this with a simultaneously plummeting stock and the bank is in serious turmoil. To make things worse, the Fed is struggling to manage inflation, especially given how rising rates are affecting institutions holding hold to maturity securities, and making it almost impossible for companies to borrow and grow. So where is the hope I mentioned? One more thing before I outline it. As a disclaimer, please note, the information contained in this video and channel, and the resources available for download are not intended as, and shall not be understood or construed as, financial advice. I am not an attorney, accountant, or financial advisor, nor am I holding myself out to be, and the information contained in this post and channel is not a substitute for professional financial advice. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, where's the hope? As an average citizen, you can bear the worst of any financial crisis. Institutions bail each other out. The bosses of failing organizations see their collapse long before the public and maneuver their assets to safety before the pandemonium. Unfortunately, no one bails the common person. You have to look out for yourself. So how? Well, if you can foresee or even suspect a crisis, you need to stop listening to reassuring politicians. It's better to be safe than sorry. For a long time, we were told inflation was transitory. Many people and organizations are underwater because they believed it. SVB was mismanaged partially by over-trusting those assurances. It's good practice to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Either way, you'll be safe. Firstly, get out of debt. Do your absolute best to get the heck out of debt. There are institutions and government programs that help you renegotiate balances or get better payment plans. I will cover these in upcoming videos too. Secondly, Sell everything you don't need and stay as liquid as possible. If you don't absolutely need that second car, sell it now while you want to. If you wait to try selling it when you have to, you may have to do it for pennies on the dollar. Thirdly, cut down on expenses now and save like your life depends on it. During a recession, you can buy things for a ridiculous fraction of their price from people who didn't plan ahead like you if you have cash. Heck, move to cheaper housing if you have to. You may end up being able to buy a house for a giveaway later. Fourthly, buy gold. Gold is generally inversely proportional to stocks. It's often a safer bet during a financial crisis. Now, I know I earlier said to be as liquid as possible, but even cash loses value during inflation. It is far better than debt, and you can buy stuff cheap if you're liquid. But if you don't need to purchase anything, gold is a safer way to store money you don't need immediate access to. More on that in later videos too. Number 5. Get into recession-proof businesses like selling used goods, online education, social media, farming. Farming is a surprisingly overlooked field, pun unintended. During a crisis, food gets scarce and there's high demand for produce and animal products. On top of that, with Russia under sanctions, many countries, including the US, are looking for alternatives for food. Russia was the largest grain exporter. I know I sound a bit like a broken record, but more on that in a later video too. There are a lot more ways to not just stay safe during a financial crisis, but actually get rich. I will be releasing these kinds of videos more, so don't get left out. Don't wish you had subscribed later. So like and subscribe now, and let's beat this thing together.